and thank you for joining me for the March Diabetes Support Group meeting. Today, we will explore simple ways to improve our eating habits for better diabetes management and lower risk of cardiovascular disease. During the presentation, we will also demonstrate how to prepare a healthy and tasty recipe that's very popular with the participants of our cardiac rehab program. It is National Nutrition Month, and one of the central messages for this month is that there are no magic pills or magic foods. We truly need to personalize our plate with a variety of nutritious foods from all the food groups to ensure that we get the nutrients that support our immune function and promote health and well-being. A study released in The Lancet titled Health Effects of Dietary Risks in 195 countries from 1990 to 2017 found suboptimal nutrition was a leading preventable risk factor for heart disease, diabetes, colorectal cancer. The data suggested that poor dietary intake was linked to millions of deaths in 2017 alone. This means that these are risk factors that are larger than high blood pressure, tobacco, and high sugar as well. Conversely, improving the diet would prevent 1 in every 5 deaths globally. More than half of these 2017 diet-related deaths globally were due to just 3 risk factors: eating too much salt, not eating enough whole grains, and not eating enough fruit. In addition, limited nuts and seeds, and inadequate intake of vegetables, and limited fatty fish was identified as causing health concerns. Here in the United States, only 12% of adults met the daily fruit recommendation, and 9% met the recommended daily intake of vegetables. In addition, while it's recommended that at least half of the grains we consume be whole, research found that many Americans consumed more processed grains and very few of the high fiber ones. Today, we will look at the DASH eating plan, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. This approach is based on research studies by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute that found that health benefits were seen in participants within 2 weeks of making changes. Data found it not only lowered blood pressure, it reduced the risk of heart disease and strokes, which are 2 major complications of uncontrolled diabetes. This plan also improved osteoporosis and helped protect us from cancer. It was also beneficial again in diabetes management and prevention. So some components of the DASH plan. First, we're to increase our fruits and vegetables and our low-fat dairy foods. We should also try to reduce our intake of high saturated and trans fat and cholesterol. We eat more whole grain foods and more nuts, and we limit added salts, sugar, and sugary drinks like soda pop, sweet tea. Finally, we limit the daily sodium intake to less than 1,500 milligrams of salt a day, which is the equivalent of 2/3 of a teaspoon. Putting DASH into practice, we would simply increase our intakes of vegetables to maybe 4 or 5 servings a day. Now, while that sounds like a lot, a serving is just a half cup cooked, which is just about the size of your palm. So that's not a great large portion. And some ways to achieve this are by adding a steamed or a raw vegetable to lunch and dinner, by replacing French fries with a green salad when we're having a meal out, or adding vegetables to our soups and stews, and topping our sandwich with extra vegetables. We should also try adding a serving of fruit to our meals or as a snack. We can do this by replacing juice with whole fruit having more fiber and nutrients than that fruit juice. Topping a bowl of oatmeal with some fresh berries in the morning, or having a bowl of fresh fruit for dessert. We could also try replacing fruited yogurt with a non-fat Greek yogurt topped with some fresh fruit. Non-fat Greek yogurt just is loaded full of good, healthy bacteria for our intestinal tract. We believe those bacteria could actually be involved in our health and not just in digestion, but in blood sugar, weight control, and even heart health. Also, we should try to use half of our typical serving of butter, margarine, or salad dressing. We could certainly replace mayonnaise with hummus or guacamole on sandwiches, and we could use a low-fat or fat-free condiment if we chose. We could also replace full-fat dairy, which is high in saturated fat, with a low-fat or fat-free dairy alternative, or an alternative like unsweetened soy or almond milk. And we should try to limit meat to about 6 ounces a day, or 2 decks of cards, is the equivalent of 2 decks of cards, and select skinless chicken, turkey, and fish over red meat, and try to have some meatless meals. We should also try to limit or cut back a little on sausage, bacon, and cold cuts because of their high salt content. Further, putting DASH into practice, we can try replacing chips or sweets as snacks with nuts, maybe some dried raisins, fat-free yogurt, frozen yogurt, unsalted air-pop popcorn, or even some raw vegetables with a hummus dip. And when shopping and cooking, reading nutrition labels for the sodium, the salt, is also valuable. A food is considered low in sodium if the sodium is 140 milligrams or less per serving, or the percent daily value out beside the sodium is 5% or less. Some ways to go about eating a little less salt: certainly buying fresh or frozen foods over canned goods, because canned foods and canned goods have so much added salt. If we already have a bunch of canned goods at home, we can certainly put them in a colander and wash away some of the excess sodium or salt. And buying canned goods in the future, we can certainly shop for no salt added canned goods. So today I'm really excited to share a cooking demonstration that uses some of the principles of the DASH diet today. Hi, today we're going to be preparing a recipe that's both simple and nutritious, and it comes to us from the Titus Regional Medical Center Pritikin Cookbook. We have an intensive cardiac rehab here at Titus Regional Medical Center, and in that rehab we teach about healthy eating, we teach about exercising safely, and even stress management. And I'm really excited to share this recipe with you today. It's one of my family's favorites, and it is healthy. And as I get it started, I'm just going to spray a small amount of an olive oil release spray in my skillet. And the recipe we're making today is a salmon recipe. Sometimes people are a little intimidated by fish or worried that they may be challenged to cook a healthy fish. This one you're going to find cooks quickly, and it's super simple. So the first thing we're going to do is combine a 1/4 cup of either an unsalted vegetable broth or a 1/4 cup of white wine, whatever you prefer, with a small amount of lemon zest, and then we're going to add to that our lemon juice. And a little trick I like to use, I can either get the quick and easy lemon juice that's at the store, but if I want to use my fresh lemon, and I like to keep a bowl of fresh lemon on my kitchen counter. I love the color, but I love to add lemon juice to chicken and salads and fish. And if you just microwave your lemon for 10 to 15 seconds, it juices so easily. So I've got the juice of my 1 lemon right there. I'm just adding that to my broth or my white wine and that little bit of lemon zest. And then I'm going to take some salt-free seasoning like Mrs. Dash, or if you have another you prefer. And this is about a teaspoon of that salt-free seasoning. I'm just going to sprinkle that on my salmon fillets. I like to turn them over and get both sides. Now these salmon fillets were already sliced, they were cleaned, they had the skin removed, and they were in little individual containers, and I got them at a local store. So once I have my seasoning, I'm going to take those fillets, and I've been warming that olive oil in my skillet at medium-high heat, and I'm just going to sear that salmon on the bottom side and add to that, after it's seared for approximately 5 minutes or so, I'm going to be adding to it this lemon juice and the wine and the zest mixture. So let me just tell you a few features about this salmon, which salmon is an excellent source of omega-3 fatty acids, and those are known to help reduce the risk of heart disease, depression, dementia, and even arthritis. So lots of health benefits to the omega-3s. Your body can't make omega-3 fatty acids on its own, so you either have to get them from your food or from supplements. Also, omega-3 fatty acids curb inflammation of the blood vessels, so that's one of the reasons that we think they may have cardioprotective benefits. And they can lower a blood fat we call triglycerides, that sometimes family have a lot of high triglycerides. This recipe will actually help lower those triglycerides. These fatty acids also slow the plaque development in the arteries. So the American Heart Association recommends that we get at least 2 servings of omega-3 fatty acid fish, like salmon, mackerel, sardines, at least 2 servings a week. So once we've got a nice sear on our salmon, oh, that looks lovely. What I'm going to do is now mix my liquid and put my pan lid on top and let that steam essentially. We want to make sure as a safety precaution that we get that salmon cooked to a temperature, an internal temperature of at least 145 degrees. And that's just going to take a few minutes. This dish altogether cooks in approximately 10 minutes. So it's not just nutritious, but it's easy for somebody if they're busy and active and working and they need quick supper ideas. This one's a really good go-to. Now, a couple of things I can tell you about what I like to do with this dish is I like to serve it with a large portion of some low-carb vegetables. And today we're going to be serving our salmon with a mixture of broccoli, cauliflower, yellow squash, tomatoes, carrots, and I've steamed those. I didn't add anything to them. I just steamed them for 4 or 5 minutes in my microwave steamer. And then we're going to put a small side of a whole grain. In this case, I'm going to be using a mixture of rices, and this is a wild rice blend that I found locally. And so altogether, our meal will be about 1/4 protein, a lean protein, that's salmon, about 1/4 our whole grain, and 1/2 will be our vegetables. And that's really a good proportion of vegetables to grains for diabetes and even heart health and weight control. So I can't wait for you to see this combined meal. It's going to be lovely. And while I'm waiting for that fish to steam, I'm going to just take 1 more lemon, and I like to use a small amount of lemon to make little slices and put on top of my salmon. Now, sometimes people are concerned that maybe the fattier fish might have a fishy flavor. The beautiful thing about using lemon juice with fish is it cuts through that fishy flavor. And I don't smell any fishy odor. I don't smell any fishy flavor. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to taste any fishy flavor when we get through with this either. It's coming along just fine right now. It needs just a few more minutes to cook together. Again, I'm cooking this at medium medium-high heat on my stovetop. In this case, we've used a portable stovetop, but I'm cooking that at medium-high heat, and usually within 5 to 7 minutes, that salmon's cooked all the way through. Okay, so the fish has been cooking about 3 to 5 minutes, and I want to just check and sort of see how it's doing. Oh, I love this. You see that steam? One of the food safety things that I recommend is that you make sure that the internal temperature of your fish, when you've got it cooked, that it gets to at least 145 degrees. So you see I've got a little temperature probe, and I'm checking or thermometer probe, and I'm checking the temperature right now, seeing if we're getting pretty close to that 145 degrees. Looks like we need maybe just 2 or 3 more minutes, and then our fish will be ready. I can also tell you about this fish that you don't have to flip it, but I personally like to brown it on both sides. So while the recipe said you can just brown the one side, I usually will flip it about halfway through and brown both sides. I like that little bit of crunchy and the little bit of flavor that adds to my salmon. And so that's what I've done. I've already flipped that salmon. Now, after it's been cooking, again, around 5 to 7 minutes total, it should be pretty close to that internal temperature that we need it to be. And all we'll do is then plate it and serve it. And I'll put a little lemon with it just for a little more hint of that lemon flavor. What I love about this recipe is that we added absolutely no salt to it, but it's bursting with flavor. So even if you're used to putting a lot of salt in your food, certainly recommend use moderation. But in our intensive cardiac rehab program, we're real sensitive to using a lot of salt. So the ingredients we've used today, they were all very, very low in sodium, very low in salt. And we didn't add any salt, in fact. So just gonna check that temperature one more time. And I like to put the probe, if you do have a thermometer, in the thickest part of the fish to check. And look at that. Very nice. And we are there. We're at that 145 degrees. So I'm going to grab a new spatula that hasn't touched any of that raw fish. And I am now going to move one of my fillets to my plate and add a little bit of lemon, and there you have it. Just a wonderful, healthy, tasty meal to enjoy, and in less than 10 minutes. Bon appetit.
It may take a while to get used to all of these new changes. Take it a day by day. It's okay to take a week to just get one of the changes down. The important part is that you're changing. And the most recent National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey showed that the average American is only consuming 2 cups of fruits and vegetables per day. The DASH diet recommends up to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. That's raw fruits and vegetables, or the equivalent of 10 servings. The 5 cups of fruits and vegetables per day can be something that you can work up to. Remember, this is a long-term process, and we just pick up where we left off if we have a failure. Reward yourself with non-food treats for successes. Adding physical activity will really help keep your blood pressure down and keep your body healthy all around. After you start the DASH diet, try to exercise at least 4 to 5 days out of the week. Start with a little and grow it gradually as you feel able. Thank you for joining me for today's March Diabetes Support Group meeting. If you have any questions, please add them to the comments and we'll respond within 24 hours. You can also call me directly at 903-577-6099. I'd also like to include the cardiac rehab number. If you have questions related to cardiac rehab, their number is 903-577-6572. Happy National Nutrition Month.